Hey guys, Pastor Mason here. I just wanted to bring a little encouragement to you guys this morning. I've been reading through Genesis, and as I came to the life of Joseph, I just couldn't help but think that, man, this is such a fitting story for the season of life that we're in right now. And so Joseph, he goes through a lot in his life, right? So in Genesis chapter 37, he's sold into slavery by his brothers, right? And so by the time we get to Genesis 41, he's in prison, and Pharaoh has this dream, and he's looking for someone to interpret the dream. And so Joseph ends up interpreting the dream for him, and the dream basically was this, that there was going to be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. And so as a result of this, Pharaoh promotes Joseph to be second in command in Egypt, and basically puts him in charge of making sure that they, in the 7 years of plenty, they were going to have enough to feed everybody in the 7 years of famine. And so God allows Joseph to go through this crazy tribulation time, right, where he was sold into slavery by his own family. His own blood sold him. And then from there, he's put under temptation by Potiphar's wife, and then from there he's in prison. But then God brings him to this place to where he's the second in command of all of Egypt. And so I just want you guys to think for a second. We're in the midst of a small scale famine, right? I mean, the main thing that we're in famine with is toilet paper, right? But imagine having an empty grocery store for 7 years. All right, so these people, they're going through a lot more than I think that we're going through currently. I know, we're dealing with sicknesses and things like that, but I could imagine, with 7 years of famine, there was probably a lot of people that were starving, right? Fortunately for us, we don't really have a food famine, but we definitely are going through similar situations as these people, right? And so we got to remember that God, through it all, he knew all of this was going to happen. It wasn't a coincidence that Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers. It wasn't a coincidence that he went through all the things that he went through, because remember, Joseph's own family, they sold him into slavery, and as a result, his family, God's chosen people, they too are in the midst of this famine. And so God raised up Joseph for this very reason, and that was to provide for and to preserve his people, right? To save his people. So I want to read you guys Genesis 45, verses 5 and 7. It says this: "Now therefore be not grieved nor angry with yourselves," right? Joseph's talking to his brothers, "that ye sold me hither, for God did send me before you to preserve life. And God sent me before you to preserve you a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance." Right? So Joseph says, hey, don't worry about it, guys. Don't be mad at yourselves. I know that you're frustrated with what you've done, but God meant it for good, right? God used this as a way to save you, to save our people. So maybe, just maybe, God is wanting to use you during this time of famine, or during this this season of pandemic, right? Because He still wants to accomplish His plan and purpose in this world, right? It didn't catch God off guard that we were going to go through a pandemic, right? It's not a shocker to Him, and I know it is to us. But man, we have to trust that God wants to use this for His glory, and God wants to use us for His glory. Right? So in this desperate time, now more than ever, people are willing to listen. I don't know about you, but anytime I get on social media, I see that people are posting about the Lord, right? They're posting the sermon from their church, and they're posting Bible verses, and that's really awesome. But man, what an opportunity we have. And I've been convicted in this area. I'm not a huge social media person, but what an awesome platform we have to get the word out, man, to give people hope, and when there's nothing but fear going on, right? We can share that, hey, we don't fear this pandemic. Sure, like we don't want to get it, right? And we're taking the necessary precautions to not get it. But man, we fear God. We're not going to buy into the hysteria that is being created right now, the panic, right? Because we have peace that passes all understanding. We trust that God has got it, and then He has a divine plan. Right? Let us preach of the peace that we have through the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. Right? We need to continue to make disciples of all nations. Right? Whatever way that we can, and so we're gonna use whatever means that we can to make disciples. And lastly, I just wanted to encourage you to have the heart of Joseph, to be able to see through the current event and understand, hey, I'm not going to be angry, but I'm going to look at this as an opportunity to save lives by a great deliverance. Man, I hope that encourages you this morning. I love you guys, miss seeing you all, and I'm really looking forward to being able to gather again. But until then,